Chapter 7, Control and Coordination. In organisms, many movements are response to changes in the environment or to use changes in environment. For example, the cat may be running because it has seen a mouse. Not only that, we also think of movement as an attempt by living organisms to use changes in their environment to their advantage. Plants grow out into sunshine. Children try to get pleasure and fun out of swinging. Buffaloes chew cud to help break up tough food so as to be able to digest it better. When bright light is focused on our eyes or when we touch a hot object, we detect the change and respond to it with movement in order to protect ourselves. All this movement in response to the environment is carefully controlled. That is, living organisms must use systems providing control and coordination. Animal nervous system. In animals, such control and coordination are provided by nervous and muscular tissue that you already studied in Standard 9. Touching a hot object is an urgent and dangerous situation for us. We need to detect it and respond to it. How do we detect that we are touching a hot object? All information from our environment is detected by a specialized tip of some nerve cells, and these receptors are usually located in our sense organ, such as inner ear, the nose, the tongue, and so on. So, gustatory receptor will detect taste, while olfactory receptors will detect smell. General perception of taste is jointly created by tongue and nose. That is why if nose is blocked or we have a cold, there is a difference in taste of foods. Transmission of nerve impulse. First, they collect information from receptors, and this information required at the end of the dendritic tip of a nerve cell. As you can observe in the figure, it sets off a chemical reaction that creates an electric impulse. This impulse travels from the dendrite to the cell body and then along the axon to its end. At the end of the axon, the electrical impulse sets off the release of some chemicals. These chemicals cross the gap or synapse and start a similar electrical impulse in the dendrite of the next neuron. This is a general scheme of how nervous impulses travels in the body. A similar synapse finally allows delivery of such impulses from neurons to other cells, such as muscle cells or gland. What happens in reflex action? Reflex is a word we use very commonly when we talk about some sudden action in response to something in the environment. For example, when we say, I jump out of the way of the bus reflexly, or I pulled my hand back from the flame reflexly, or I was so hungry my mouth started watering reflexly. What exactly do we mean? A common idea in all such examples is that we do something without thinking about it or without failing in control of our reactions. Yet these are situations where we are responding with some action to changes in our environment. For example, touching a flame is an urgent and dangerous situation for us, or in fact for any animal. How would we respond to this? One simple way is to think consciously about the pain and the possibility of getting burned and therefore move our hand. But here important question is that how long will it take us to think all this? The answer is depends on how we think. If nerve impulses are sent around the way we have talked about earlier, then thinking is also likely to involve and creation of such impulses. Thinking is a complex activity, so it is bound to involve a complicated interaction of many nerve impulses from many neurons. In that case, it is no surprise that the thinking tissue in our body it consists of a dense network of neurons. It sits in the forward end of the skull and receives signals from all over the body which it thinks about before responding to them. In order to receive these signals, the thinking part of the brain in the skull must be connected to the nerves that coming from the various parts of the body. Similarly, if this part of the brain is to instruct muscles to move, then nerves must carry these signals back to different parts of the body. If all of this is to be done when we touch a hot object, it may take enough time for us to get burnt, right? Then what is reflex arc? So rather than having to think about the sensation of heat, if the nerves that detect heat were to be connected to the nerves that move muscles in a simpler way, the process of detecting the signal or the input and responding to it by an output action must be completed quickly. Such connection is commonly called a reflex arc. Where should such reflex arc connection be made between the input nerve and the output nerve? The best place is that they first meet each other. Nerves from all over the body meet in a bundle in the spinal cord on their way to the brain. Reflex arcs are formed in the spinal cord itself, although the information input also goes on reach the brain. So in the figure you can observe the reflex arc. What happened? Receptor in the skin, it detect a stimulus, that is the change in temperature. Then sensory neuron sends electrical impulses to a relay neuron which is located in the spinal cord of the CNS. CNS, that is central nervous system. Relay neurons connect sensory neurons to motor neurons. After that, motor neuron sends electrical impulses to an effector, and then effector produces a response. Response means muscle contracts to move hand away. So this is the reflex arc. Human brain and spinal cord constitute the central nervous system. They receive information from all parts of the body and integrate it. Brain is protected in a fluid filled balloon for shock absorber inside a bony box, that is cranium. Spinal cord is protected in vertebral column, that is the backbone. Brain is main coordinating center of the body. It involves more complex mechanisms and neural connections for complex processes such as thinking. Spinal cord contains nerves which supply information to think about. After that, brain send messages to muscles to control voluntary sections such as writing, talking, moving, clapping, etc. Now, communication between the central nervous system and other parts of the body is facilitated by the peripheral nervous system, that is PNS. It consists of cranial nerves, that is from brain, and spinal nerves, that is from spinal cord. There are three parts of the brain: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. As you can observe in this struck figure, forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. You can also observe spinal cord. Forebrain, it is the main thinking part of the brain, and it has a following region. First, it is sensory region. In sensory region, they receive sensory impulses of hearing, smell, and sight. Second, association area. They interpret sensory information by associating with information from other receptors and previously stored information. Thus, a decision is made to respond. This information is passed to the motor area, which control the movement of voluntary muscles. Then third, it is center of hunger. It gives sensation such as feeling full when food is eaten. Then midbrain and hindbrain. In our body, there are involuntary actions between simple reflex actions and throughout actions. We do not have thinking control on them. For example, salivation, heartbeat, we cannot control it. They are controlled by midbrain and hindbrain. Medulla in hindbrain, it control involuntary action such as blood pressure, salivation, vomiting. You can observe different parts of the hindbrain in the figure: pons, medulla oblongata, and cerebellum. Medulla, it controls the involuntary action. On the other hand, cerebellum is there. Cerebellum in hindbrain, it controls voluntary actions like walking, riding a bicycle, picking up a pencil. That means all these actions we can control it. It also maintains the posture and balance of the body. How does nervous tissue it cause a action? So far we have been talking about nervous tissue and how it collects information, sends it around the body, process information, make decision based on information, and conveys decisions to muscle for action. In other words, when the action or movement is to be performed, muscle tissue will do the final job. So how do animal muscles move? When a nerve impulse reaches the muscle fiber must move. How does a muscle cell move? The simplest notion of movement at the cellular level is that muscle cells will move by changing their shape so that they shorten. So the next question arises is that how do muscle cells change their shape? So muscle cells have special proteins that change both their shape and their arrangement in the cell in response to nervous electrical impulses. When this happens, new arrangement of these proteins give the muscle cells a shorter form. So there are two types of muscles, voluntary muscles and involuntary muscles. The muscles attached to the skeleton, it is voluntary muscles. They can be moved as we decide. So they are voluntary muscle. Then what is involuntary muscles? So muscles found in visceral organs, they are not under our control. They are involuntary muscles. Coordination in plant. Animals have a nervous system for controlling and coordinating the activities of the body. But plants, we know that they have neither a nervous system nor muscles. So, how do they respond to stimuli? When we touch the leaves of Chui Mui, that is the sensitive or touch me not plant of Mimosa family, they begin to fold up and droop, as you can observe in the figure, touch me not plant. When a seed germinates, the root goes down, the stem comes up into the air, as you can observe in the figure. The leaves of the sensitive plant move very quickly in response to touch. There is no growth involved in the movement. On the other hand, the as you can observe in this picture, the directional movement of a seedling is caused by growth. If it is prevented from growing, it will not show any movement. So plants show two different types of movement, one dependent on growth and other independent of growth. Then there is immediate response to stimulus. Since no growth is involved, the plant must actually move its leaves in response to touch. But there is no nervous tissue nor any muscle tissue. How does the plant detect the touch and how do the leaves move in response? If we think about where exactly the plant is touched and what part of the plant actually moves, it is apparent that movement happens at a point different from the point of touch. So, information that a touch has occurred must be communicated. The plant also use electrical chemical means to convey this information from cell to cell. But unlike in animals, there is no specialized tissue in plant for the conduction of information. Finally, again, as in animals, some cells must change shape in order for movement to happen. Instead of the specialized proteins that found in animal muscle cells, plant cells change shape by changing the amount of water in them, resulting in swelling or shrinking, and therefore in changing shapes. We have the examples of stomata, right? closing and enclosing of stomata. Movement due to growth. Some plants like pea plant climb up other plants or fences by means of tendrils. You can observe tendrils in the figure. These tendrils are sensitive to touch. When they come in contact with any support, the part of the tendril in contact with the object does not grow as rapidly as the part of the tendril away from the object. This causes the tendril to circle around the object and thus cling to it. Plants respond to stimuli slowly by growing in a particular direction. Because this growth is directional, it appears as if the plant is moving. Environmental triggers such as light or gravity will change the directions that plant parts grow in. And this directional or tropic movements can be either towards the stimulus or away from it. So, in two different kinds of phototropic movement, okay. So, there are different types of tropic movements for phototropism, geotropism, hydrotropism, and chemotropism. First, it is prototropism. It is the tropic movement in response to light. Photo means light. So it is the tropic movement in response to light. As you can observe in the figure, shoots respond by bending towards the light. So that is positive phototropism. And you can observe roots respond by bending away from light. That is negative phototropism. Then other, it is geotropism. Geo, that means something related to earth or gravity. So movement in response to the pull of earth or gravity, it is geotropism. Roots always grow downwards. So that is positive geotropism towards the gravity. Shoots grow upward, that means opposite to gravity, and away from it. So that is negative geotropism. Then hydrotropism, movement of a plant towards or away from water. For example, roots bend toward the moist soil. As you can observe in the figure, in the first figure, root grows straight because moist soil is everywhere. But in the second figure, you can observe left side it is dry soil and right side it is moist soil. So root grows towards the water. That means the direction of root direction of growth of the root is towards the moist soil on the right side. Then chemotropism, movement of plant towards or away from chemicals, it is chemotropism. As you can observe in the figure, growth of pollen tube towards the ovule. So it is the example of chemotropism. How information is communicated in the bodies of multicellular organisms, the movement of the sensitive plant in response to touch is very quick. The movement of sunflowers in response to day or night, on the other hand, is quite slow. We know that sunflower always bends towards the sun. Growth related movements of plant will be even slower. Even in animal body, there are carefully controlled directions to growth. Our arms and fingers grow in certain directions, not haphazardly. So controlled movements can be either slow or fast. If fast response to stimuli are to be made, information transfer must happen very quickly. For this, the medium of transmission must be able to move rapidly. The example is that electrical impulses are an excellent means for this, but there are limitations to the use of these electrical impulses. Which kind of limitations? So, they will reach only those cells that are connected by nervous tissue, not each and every cells in the body. After that, once an electrical impulse is generated in a cell and transmitted, the cell will take some time to reset its mechanisms before it can generate and transmit a new impulse. Cells cannot continually create and transmit electrical impulses. It is thus no wonder that most multicellular organisms use another means of communication between cells, that is, chemical communications. In chemical communication, what happened? Instead of generating an electric impulse, stimulated cells release a chemical compound, and this chemical compound would diffuse all around the original cells. If other cells around have the same means to detect this compound using special molecules on their surfaces, then they would be able to recognize information and even transmit it. This will be slower, but it can potentially reach all cells of the body, regardless of nervous connection, and it can be done steadily and persistently. This compound or hormone used by multicellular organisms for control and coordination show a great deal of diversity as we would expect. Different plant hormones help to coordinate growth, development, and responses to the environment. They are synthesized at places away from where they act and simply diffuses to the area of action. See, in this figure you can observe different types of plant hormones: auxin, gibberellin, and cytokine. They are growth hormone or growth promoter. Abscisic acid, it is growth inhibitor. In the first figure you can observe different types of plant hormones and where they has effect. Different colors indicate it. In the second figure you can observe when growing plant they detect light, a hormone called auxin synthesizes at the shoot tip and helps the cells to grow longer. When light is coming from one side of the plant, auxin diffuses towards the shady side of the shoot. And this concentration of auxin stimulate the cells to grow longer on this side of the shoot which is away from light, as you can observe in the figure. Thus the plant appears to bend towards light. Then another is gibberellins. It helps in the growth of the stem. Cytokinin, it promotes cell division. They are mostly present in the areas of rapid cell division, such as fruits and seeds. Abscisic acid, it is growth inhibitor, so it inhibits growth and causes wilting of leaves. Then hormones in animals, endocrine system. How are such chemical or hormonal means of information transmission used in animals? What do some animals, for instance squirrels, experience when they are in a scary situation? So, electrical impulses can instruct only few tissues to prepare for an activity. So, in animals, there is another way of control and coordination called endocrine system. It includes different endocrine glands and their secretion. Their secretion, they are known as hormones, which are chemical signals. They can reach all cells and provide ranging changes. That is, adrenal gland, it secretes adrenaline. In this picture you can observe different kind of endocrine glands in male and female. Adrenaline prepares body to cope with emergency situation. As I said, if we consider an example of squirrel, it prepares to fight or run away. It needs more energy in both these situations. Though fighting and running are different, both have some common preparations. Adrenaline is secreted into blood and carried to different body parts. As a result, the following event occurs. This adrenaline is secreted from the adrenal gland. As a result, heart beats faster to supply more oxygen to the muscles because either we have to fight or flight, more energy is required, and there is muscle movement is also increased. So, more supply of oxygen to the muscles. Blood to the digestive system and skin is reduced by contracting muscles around the small arteries in these muscles. That is why we are having pale face during this kind of situation. Breathing rate increases due to the contraction of diaphragm and rib muscles. This responses prepares the body to deal with this situation. Second, it is pancreas. The timing and amount of hormone that is released by regulated by feedback mechanisms. So there are feedback mechanism. For example, if the blood sugar level get increases, it is defected by cells of pancreas and produce more insulin. So whenever there is blood sugar level increases, cells of the pancreas produces more insulin. As the blood sugar level falls, insulin secretion is also get reduced. So that is feedback mechanism. Some important hormones and their functions. First, it is hypothalamus releasing hormone. Hypothalamus releasing hormones, they stimulates pituitary gland to release the hormone. Which hormone? Growth hormone releasing factor. It stimulates pituitary gland to release growth hormone. Growth hormone, that is GH. So pituitary gland, it secretes growth hormone. Growth hormone, it stimulates growth and development of the body. Deficiency of growth hormone in childhood, then the height is not that much tall, so it is dwarfism. Then what is gynaetism? So overproduction of growth hormone in childhood, as you can observe in the figure, gynaetism and dwarfism. Then second is thyroid gland. Thyroid gland, it secretes thyroxine. Thyroxine is regulate carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism for the balanced growth. Iodine is essential for synthesis of this thyroxine. Iodized salts, it can provide iodine. Deficiency of iodine, it causes goiter. The swollen neck, it is the main symptoms of the goiter. You can observe that swollen neck in the figure. You can also observe the iodine rich food. Pancreas, as we just discussed, that it secretes the insulin. Insulin regulates blood sugar level. Deficiency of insulin, it causes diabetes. Diabetes, that means sugar level increases. Such patients are given insulin injections. Testes and ovaries. Testes we can found in male, it secretes testosterone. Ovaries in female, it secretes estrogen and progesterone. All of us have noticed many dramatic changes in our appearance as well as in our friends when we reach the age of 10 to 12 years of age. These changes associated with puberty are because of the secretion of testosterone in male and estrogen in female. What these enzymes do, what these hormones do, so the testosterone functions, it causes changes during puberty. It helps in the development of male sex organs and different types of male behaviors. On the other hand, estrogen helps in the development of female sex organs. It regulates menstrual cycles, etc.